Yo, what is up guys? Dale Boy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So of course, the 5th of April marked the Queensberry debut on DAZN, Queensberry's first card on their new broadcaster. And the card itself I felt was actually pretty good. Two fights in which kind of caught my attention. One was Joyce versus Dillian Whyte, domestic fight. You know, winner stays on kind of thing. Both guys are at the end of their careers. And if they wanted to continue their careers, they had to win that fight, you know? But of course, Dillian Whyte pulled out with an injury. And even the co-main event, which was Richard Riakporhe versus Lawrence Okolie, that got scrapped as well. One of the two fighters got injured. I'm not sure which one. But yeah, that fight's been pulled as well. And ordinarily, I would not be looking forward to Lawrence Okolie versus Richard Riakporhe. However, it was at heavyweight, so I was a little more intrigued about that fight than most people were. But regardless, that's been called off. However, Joyce has got a replacement, and he is going to be fighting Filip Hrgovic. Now, as far as late replacements go, about a month. I think Dillian Whyte pulled out with a month to go. This is a pretty good opponent on a month's notice. Hrgovic, of course, very good amateur, Olympic, was it a bronze medalist, silver medalist, whatever it was. Good amateur, but as a pro, kind of failed to impress. I was actually excited when Hrgovic turned pro. I was expecting big things, but the more I saw of Hrgovic, the more I saw him regressing. To me, as he went on in his pro career, he kind of lost that dynamism that he had in the amateurs. Wasn't as quick, wasn't as fluid. You know, put probably a bit too much weight on as well, in my opinion. And he was just always... He always struck me with the thought that he was just going through the motions. And I got that impression throughout most of his fights, to be honest with you, as a pro. In the last couple of years, his career has come unstuck a little bit. Had that fight with Zhili Zhang where he controversially won. And of course, in his last fight, he lost to Daniel Dubois. Got stopped in that fight. Although, you know, there were moments in that fight where Dubois was taking liberties with his head, etc. But regardless, the things that I took away from the Zhang and Dubois fights were that Hrgovic isn't really about it. Like, even in the Zhang fight, he was acting very strangely, turning his back at times, not wanting to engage. It looked like he didn't want to be there, and I got that same impression from the Dubois fight, where it looked like he was kind of feeling sorry for himself. Now, he took some great shots in that fight. He took great shots in both fights. One thing those fights did show was that there's not much wrong with Hrgovic's chin. He's got a chin, but his mentality just doesn't impress me. I think he's one of those guys who maybe he's a big fish in a small pond in Croatia. No offense, but you know, it's a small country with not a whole lot of sports stars, and I'm sure he's treated like royalty out there, so he probably doesn't need to fight anymore. And I kind of see that in his game. I see a guy who's just there to make up the numbers, who's just there to get paid. But this is an opportunity for him to rebound, get a name under his resume. Of course, Joyce beat Hrgovic in the 2016 Olympic Games. Very close fight in the amateurs. So he's got an opportunity to avenge that defeat to Joyce. Joyce, on the other hand, you know, up until 4 fights ago, Joyce was arguably, well, he was the number one contender in the heavyweight division. Arguably the best guy, the highest ranked guy who wasn't a champion. You know, he'd beaten guys like Bryant Jennings. He put that beat down on Joseph Parker, who since has rebounded very well. He, of course, beat Daniel Dubois, made him quit. You know, Joyce was going through a tear. Then he met Zhili Zhang, got stopped twice, hasn't been the same since. You know, had a fight in the interim with Cash Ali, an area-level heavyweight in the UK, struggled but won. And in his last fight, he lost to the old warhorse Derek Chisora, a guy who's seen better days. And Joyce, to me, I think he's also seen better days by this point in time. one thing that strikes me about Joyce isn't even just the performances inside the ring, which have been lacking in the last few fights. I look at Joyce and it looks like he's aged so rapidly, so quickly. Look at Joyce from like a couple of years ago to now. It looks like he's aged 10 years. You know, just in the face and whatnot. It's like he's aged 10 years in 2 years kind of thing. I know he is getting on, he's like 38, 39, but yeah, to me he doesn't look in a great position. He doesn't look in a great way. Ultimately, this fight could come down to either who wants it more, and in that case, maybe Joyce has a chance here. But it could just come down to who has more left physically. And despite me questioning Hrgovic's mentality, I do think he's still got a lot left physically. Hrgovic isn't that old. I think he's like 32, 33 years old, something like that. So physically, for a heavyweight, he does have time left. But it's whether he can get himself in shape. It's whether he can get himself in the right mindset. Bear in mind as well, this fight is only a 10-rounder. I think White versus Joyce was supposed to be a 12-rounder, but they've cut this back to a 10-rounder. I'm assuming that's on Hrgovic's request. Maybe that means Hrgovic isn't in the greatest of shape. We shall see. The 10-round format, who does it favour? I mean, well, Joyce fought Chisora in a 10-rounder and the knockdown cost him, so he couldn't really get going in that fight. I felt he had a hard time maintaining momentum in that fight. Over 10 rounds, I'm not sure who this favours, to be honest. Maybe Hrgovic because of lack of training, but maybe it suits him more. Maybe he's more willing now to throw more in these 10 rounds. When I look at this one, I find it hard to predict, but I'm just going to go with Hrgovic based on him being fresher, to be honest with you. I think Joyce is a spent force now at this point in time. I think this one's going to be messy. I do think this one's going to be messy. Hrgovic has like a herky-jerky kind of style. He can be kind of messy with his punches, falls short with a lot of punches, likes to clinch now and again. Joyce is a marauding guy who likes to work up close, and sometimes, you know, it doesn't always look the prettiest. I think this one could be a bit of a messy fight, sloppy but kind of entertaining. But I'm going to favour Hrgovic slightly, but that's not with any real confidence. But yeah, you know, for a late replacement, it's a decent fight. It's a decent fight. And again, it takes a similar... It's similar to the White fight in the sense of its winner stays on. If Hrgovic loses to this version of Joyce, he's done. As an elite heavyweight or a guy who could maybe get back to the top, he would be done. And as for Joyce, if he's to lose to Hrgovic at 39 years old, whatever he is, he's done as well. You know, if Joyce loses, that's 4 losses in his last 5 at 39. So yeah, it's still loser leaves town, winner stays on. And all things considered, it's a good replacement. But anyway, share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Del Boy. Peace.